Hey, folks. Hi,
Hi.
Monica. Hi, David.
Sorry,
Hey.
I'm not giving you screen time. Nate, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting myself set up here
Of course, we jumped on a little early.
in my little studio,
Yes.
in my office. It's great
Are you
to
at-
see you guys.
You at home, Nate?
No, I'm in my office at church, which feels pretty safe because hardly anybody comes here. And it's a lot quieter than my house right now because
Yes.
we have two little ones at home now. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to be able to escape up here, you know?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's such a beautiful office too.
It's amazing. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever have a better office. Yeah. I'm so glad that you both can join us.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
It should be lots of fun and a lot of people in the waiting room already. I'm gonna wait 1 minute to let them in, but Donna, I don't see your face. Can you turn your camera on, Donna? You think she and Ken are on one camera together, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
so. I know sometimes I ask her in the sort of upper right corner to ask her to turn her camera on, and sometimes that helps trigger it.
Oh, great. Okay.
We were just on the phone, so I can also give her a quick call and check in.
There we are. There we are.
Perfect, you guys.
All right. Hi, Donna. Hi, Ken. Okay, there's lots of people in the waiting room, so I'm gonna let everybody in, and we can all say hi, and then we'll get started.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello there.
Welcome, everyone.
Ready?
Welcome. It's so nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And special welcome to Monica and David joining from a different time zone.
We're so happy to be here.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you all.
Good to see you too.
And Kurt Miner coming to you from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Oh my gosh, Kurt, so good to see you.
Hi, Kurt.
Likewise, Monica.
Oh gosh, it's been a minute. It was
Yeah.
4 years ago that we were on tour in your hometown.
Yeah, you were down in Iowa City. We came to see you perform.
Yeah. Oh, so wonderful to see you.
Kurt, will you share with us your history with ACC? Because I don't know myself.
Sure. I was at PSR earning my MDiv from 82 to 85. ACC became our home church. I did my field ed there under Ken. And then in my senior year, they were looking for a part-time youth pastor, and I fulfilled that role during my senior year.
Oh, cool. That's so awesome. You might have heard, but I began my ministry in Iowa. I served the UCC church in Grinnell.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we'll have to catch up about
Monica's there.
I actually interviewed there at one point.
Yeah, I think there's their son.
Lots of ministers in that congregation.
That's right.
Well, I think we'll have a few more people trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started. I'll welcome everybody. This is so great to see you all. I knew we might have a big crowd, Ken, and indeed we do. And welcome everyone to the second of our series that we're calling Spiritual Journeys. We had this idea a few months ago that there's such a treasure trove of interesting stories and wisdom, and really just a diversity of relationships with God and approaches to the holy right here in our congregation. And so we're doing this series now. Carol Grosvenor had the idea to start it off with, and we kicked things off last month with a conversation with Charlie and Clavell Fender. And we thought that a great follow-up for that might be interviewing our very own Reverend Ken Barnes. And so I'm going to turn things over to Caro now, and she might introduce Ken and just talk for a little bit, and then we'll get started, and Ken will share, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions from all of you, if you have questions for him too. So Caro.
Can't hear you.
Volume.
Caro, I don't think we can hear you too well. But let me. Can you try to talk again, Caro? It doesn't say that you're muted.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. That's
I can hear her.
yeah.
Okay. I'll try to talk loudly.
Go for it. Go for it.
I was saying that I'm sure most people watching have known Ken for years and admired him for years. And, you know, he was a wonderful and I think beloved pastor here for, I don't know what, 20 years at least. And he's just a remarkable guy. For me especially, we had left another church after one of our children came out as gay. And that church was not especially loving to gay people at that time. Their attitude was love the sinner, hate the sin. We didn't think our child was a sinner. So we came to Arlington Church, and Ken was nothing but welcoming and gracious. And we felt so loved, and we felt this kind of grace. So I'm very thankful to Ken. So Ken, it's up to you now. We're looking forward to what you have to say to tell us about your spiritual journey. Are you muted?
And Ken and Donna, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Great. I still don't think we can hear you, Ken. Can you try again? No, it's still not working, huh?
Is it plugged in?
But it doesn't say that you're muted.
Is that other headphone plugged in?
Mom and Dad, is the headphone jack all the way plugged in?
Can you try to talk again, Ken? No. Yeah. It might be.
He's pinned instead of, there's a pin there instead of just a regular unmute.
Right. I spotlighted him, but that shouldn't have to do with the sound. Donna and Ken, can you wave if you can hear me? So you can hear me, okay. Yeah, I wonder if your headphones are plugged into your computer. They are? Yeah. Okay.
Mom, try taking them out just for fun. Take them out and put them back in. Let me see if the internet comes in and out just a touch too.
Or maybe don't use headphones at all.
Yeah, that might be the.
Yeah.
I know. I think they might be on Mom's. Mama, are you on your computer? Yes. Okay. Gosh,
Just unplug the headphones and leave them out.
I know. Mom, try it without the headphones. I know it's the speaker on her computer isn't great.
I know.
And then unplug the headphones from the jack. You guys, this is the worst, like, Apple Genius help. We're doing nothing useful.
I think you're the best person though, Monica. So.
And then you guys, my next idea would be to use Dad's new computer. I know that's kind of a bother. If it doesn't work. And the other trick is to sign off and sign on again.
Mhm.
Sometimes that sort of kicks it back.
Yeah, why don't you try that, Donna? And we can entertain ourselves for a few
And
minutes.
Mom, I've got my phone on if you want to chat through anything.
Just pop back on.
Yeah.
It could
Isn't
be
it-
the volume is just turned way down also. It could be your volume is turned.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, we'll try that next.
Isn't it amazing in this modern day of technology, still the number one thing is reboot.
Yeah.
Flip off, flip on. Wow.
Turn it off, turn it on. I know.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
Thankfully, that works sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And Monica, I think I've chatted with them on Zoom on their phone too. Haven't
Yeah,
they could use they have a cell phone that they
they
might.
could. Yeah, Mom's cell phone. Yes.
Okay.
And it's funny, we were just on Zoom last night and it worked great. So I have faith in the signing back in. I think that should.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the glitch goblin. It's the glitch goblins.
Yep.
Mm.
Hey, speaking of technology, now that we're all sort of waiting around for 1 minute, has anybody else received a scam text message claiming to be me?
No.
It's Helen. and I-
Like a message on your phone? So
I
Susan
have-
and Ron-
It
Oh
was,
my
it was,
gosh.
there was
Okay.
an email on my iPhone that came in. I think it was Monday.
Yeah, not an email, but a text. I'm talking, I
Oh,
know
no,
about
mine-
the email, but
Yeah, mine was just an email, sorry.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jenny, her back.
Okay, Mom and
Yeah.
Dad, try say something. Or let's see, make sure you're unmuted. You seem unmuted.
Yeah,
And
they're-
now, Mom and Dad, see if I think we might still have the same problem. But I know this is going to seem backwards. Mama, can you go to the upper right and do the volume sort of right next to the on button? Just make sure your volume is turned all the way up.
Sure.
There you go.
Mom, you did it
There you go.
Good,
Good.
good for her.
All right.
for her. It's right.
Good job, Donna.
Wow.
Oh, it's so stressful. Great job. Great job.
After a little pause, now
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think you're on, honey.
you're on, Ken.
Okay. I'll begin by indicating where I grew up. Kelseyville, California, Clear Lake area. I was active in the Presbyterian Church in Kelseyville. My father died when I was 5 years old. He had a heart condition which I inherited. I'm doing fine now, thanks to medical technology. But my mother remarried, and I've got photographs of the marriage of my birth father and my mother and my stepfather and my mother down in my study. It was important for my stepfather to have my name changed. So I went from Hoburg to Barnes, and that was good. I have a younger brother who doesn't remember our birth father. And so it was a little easier for him to transition to Barnes. As I said, I was in the Presbyterian Church, and I went to a Presbyterian seminary, San Francisco Theological Seminary in San Anselmo. My final year there, as I was looking for a call, was the year of the Selma March. 70 of us went down from the seminary to Selma and did the march. Later on, I guess we were called Freedom Riders. But of the 70 of us, only one person received a call to a church, and that was the African American who went with us. So I was unsure of what I was going to do. I then contacted a church in Scotland, Church of Scotland, which is similar to the United Presbyterian Church. And I applied at the Croftfoot Parish Church in Scotland and was accepted. And so began my ministry in Scotland. In Scotland, it's a little different in that it's like a medical intern. You're immediately can baptize, marry, bury, etc. I then received a call to the Arinda Community Church. And that was interesting. They had a number of applicants for the associate pastor job. And they weren't going to fly me from Scotland back to California. But the dean of students, who I knew through his son, Arlie Williams, said, well, I can stand in for Kenny. I know him well. And so he stood in for me. And so I had the dean of students in my place. The interesting thing is, and I heard the story many times, his son was also in the fraternity with me. And it was a bit of a wild spring party. And according to Dean Williams telling the story, I decided I would not go to his son's dry party, but would go to a wet party. And when the dean asked me about that, I said, well, geez, I'm going to become a minister. And I've got to figure out how the other half lives. So it was a way to begin. Also, I had been ordained a Presbyterian, but the Arinda Community Church wanted me to join the United Church of Christ, which was something I could do fairly easily. And so I did. And and I'm certainly glad that I did. I transferred, then interviewed and transferred to the United Church of Hayward. And it was a real delightful family-oriented church. And one thing that happened is, as the Hindus say, when you're ready, your guru appears. My guru appeared in the form of 2 highway patrolmen who pulled me over for drunk driving. Ended up in Santa Rita jail, and carried with me in AA tradition. We're given a medal for every year we've been clean and sober. So I proudly carried around my 40-year medal until my daughter said, "Dad, I'm 46." And so I changed that medal to a 46-year medal. And but that really began my whole spiritual journey. We would travel from Hayward up to Oakland to a all men's AA group. A Lutheran pastor, an attorney, myself, and a principal. And we would go up. It's interesting. They're very accommodating in this church, and AA meetings usually occur in church basements. But if you were chairing the meeting, the first thing you had to do was to screw the light bulb back on that would hang down, because they would unscrew it for us. But so that was my beginning. I then learned meditation, and that came in a strange way. To get myself through the cocktail hour, I started running, and I felt a little bit of the runner's high. And then later, it was interesting for me to continue running. But I also learned meditation. Lawrence LeSean wrote a book called How to Meditate. And it was my Bible for quite a while. And I had a good friend, Francis Geddes, who's a UCC minister. And Francis and I became friends. And so we started because in order to keep meditation, you have to meditate with a group. And I started a small group at the Hayward Church. We'd meet at 7:00. And that happened when I then was called to the Arlington Community Church. I started an evening meditation service, which, by the way, the church has a marvelous little chapel that now is filled with nursery school equipment. But it would happen every Sunday evening down there. Something occurred when I was serving the church. The AIDS epidemic hit, and I was so impressed with how many people, men and women, came out of the closet to express that they were gay. And one Sunday, it was just seemed natural for me to begin the service by saying, "I'm Ken, I'm an alcoholic." And it was a really liberating thing for me to do. And so that was really the start. I still go to my AA meetings at St. Albans Episcopal Church in Albany. And each time before we speak, it's our tradition to say, I'm Ken, I'm an alcoholic, even though I've had now over 40 years of tradition. I guess I mentioned before, I carried my chip proudly with me. And my daughter reminded me a few years ago that she was 46 and I had a 40-year chip. So I upgraded to the time I was expected. Also, I, through the energy and drive of Ruth Robinson, set up and worked on the labyrinth, which is in our patio outside. And I walked down to the church and walk the labyrinth. And when I do, as I begin, it's my meditation time, I mention silently to myself, John Grosvenor, Rich Morris, Francis Geddes, a number of my family, including my birth father and my mother and my stepfather, and most recently Jim Gerard, Eloise Schmidt, Jill Bryans, Phil and Al Miner, Alan Nixon, Jim Young, and Bob and Della Feitz. I mentioned Alan Phil, Ed and Marguerite Rule, and Abby and Bill Laurie. And so it's a great way to begin my walk. I think I'll stop there and take any questions anyone might have.
I have a question.
Caro, I think your volume's gone down again.
Okay, did you ever have moments when your faith was shaken?
What?
Did you ever have moments where your faith was shaken?
Yes, when I would, it was certainly shaken when I had to acknowledge that I was an alcoholic, that I could no longer drink. But the marvelous folks in AA were so helpful there. It's interesting. We have our little secret society in AA, and every now and then I'd slip into what we call our AA slanguage. And afterwards, somebody would come up and say, "Are you a friend of Bill Wilson's?" And of course, that's he was the founder of AA.
Ken, I so appreciate you sharing your story. And I remember, I think the first Sunday I was due to preach my my sort of test sermon at ACC. You were the first person to greet me as I made my way in from my car, and you've been such a source of support and inspiration. And as you talked, I was just personally so struck by how much of your journey, your spiritual growth, happened after you became an ordained minister. And I just found that so encouraging, because I think, you know, I think sometimes we're taught, like, whatever job we have, once you step into it, you're supposed to be a sort of expert, right? And I think the amazing thing about a relationship with God is that it's the opposite. You know, there's all this growing to do. And for you, whether it was meditation or running or support of gay rights, you know, that all came after your calling to the ministry. I just think that's so wonderful. I guess I'll ask one question. If you can think back to your time in seminary, when you were kind of forming your theology, I'm curious about how your thinking about who God is has changed over time, from back then to now.
Good question.
Wonderful question. And I see God in a much more spiritual way. When I learned meditation, I learned a number of different meditation traditions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and I think all mystics come from the same country and speak the same language. There was a difficult time in my ministry when we had grown at Arlington Community Church, and we needed a second pastor to be a youth pastor. And our daughter Monica was in junior high. And so was the Yard's daughter, Emily. And there was a friend of mine who was ordained UCC pastor, and Jim Lauer. And I encouraged him to put his application in. He was the unanimous choice of the search committee. And when he came before the congregation, this was during the AIDS epidemic, 71% voted to call him. We needed 75%. And so we lost. And there were a few who ended up, one physician in the ER who dramatically got up and said, well, I have to work in the ER and I get blood on my hands and I don't want to have to come to my church and have it as well. I almost resigned, and the moderator of the church, who was a Barnes as well, Bruce Barnes, said, "Dan, you've got sabbatical time. Why don't you take it?" And so I went to a monastery in Montreal, and there they had a regular meditation service, and so I was able to go through a really difficult time in my life silently. I couldn't talk about anything to anyone, except I would meditate. So that was an important time. It was a 6-month sabbatical. Another thing I did is I took a bus trip, $99 for 99 days, Greyhound bus, across the country and stayed basically in homeless shelters. And got to know lots of folk who certainly had life more difficult than mine. And that was a real help for me.
Thanks,
I
Ken.
guess I'll make a comment versus a question, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So
Kurt, go ahead, Kurt.
Okay. So Ken mentioned his gurus were a couple of police officers pulling him over for drunk driving. Ken was my guru. I can't remember if it was Ken or someone else at Arlington that said my personality was a cross between the Apostle Paul and a carnival barker. And quite frankly, I think that's fairly accurate. And when I did my field ed with Ken, he understood that being out there and in front of people, that was not a challenge in my skill set. But the meditation piece was. And so he, and I'm going to use the word, he ordered me that for 1 hour every week, as part of my field ed, I went to the Carmelite Monastery, lived down and around from the church, and spent an hour in silence. And I got to tell you, when that first started, that was the longest hour of my life. But by the end of my field ed, it was the thing I looked forward to the most every week. So I thank Ken for that.
Well, Kurt, I just want to thank you for your building skills and your interest in theater, because, well, two things come to mind. We had a production of a young priest who did Silas, and you worked most of the afternoon setting up the pulpit inside the church. And when they came, to do it, they decided to move inside the auditorium. And you were so gracious in all the hard work you had done that afternoon to do. And you also have used your theatrical skills in your church in Iowa. So
I still do first person sermons
Oh, that's
during
good.
Lenten. And yes, that Berkeley Rep 2-person performance of Mass Appeal,
yeah.
that was one of the highlights for me during my time in Arlington.
Mm.
Thanks, Kurt. I bet we have some other questions from people who have been thinking of something to say. Yes, Susan Wooten.
Yeah, I have two questions. One's definitely a question and the other's want you to expand on something you said. I wondered what the Holy Bible has meant to you in your life. And the second one is, can you tell us about your time in the USSR when you were there?
Yes. First of all, scripture is still important to me. I usually read some passages, either from the Psalms or the New Testament. I seem to be drawn to mainly. Donna and I went to the USSR with the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And we were hosted by peace committees in various towns. In fact, if I look right now over, there was a little chair that was given to Donna and I for our daughter, Monica. And yeah, I can see it now. It's a beautiful little chair. And a couple gave it to us on their Danube. We were on the Danube at the time. But thank you for that question, too.
I have a question. It's Helen.
Go for it.
First of all, hi, Kurt Miner. I can see you, though you can't see me. Ken, one day, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was in your office, which was lined with books. That back wall is just solid books. And I said something to you about reading them. And your comment surprised me. You said, even if I weren't a minister, this is what I would be studying. Would you care to expound on that? Like this is your life, whether you are a minister or not?
Yeah, I think Kurt and Nate would have a similar thing. Response. It's our faith that prompts us to a new and better life. And I'd rather see a sermon walking than hear one any day.
Amen, Ken. Thank you.
Who else has a question? Susan Yord, I see your hand.
Am I muted or am I not muted?
You're great.
Okay.
You're good.
Ken, this is a question that I've always wanted to ask of a minister, and that is, what do you think set your feet on the path towards the ministry when you were young? Is that something that
I heard set my feet, but after that I didn't hear.
Oh, right.
Well, I would say
I shall repeat it.
two things. One was at the Presbyterian Church in Kelseyville. My brother, who would be part of the youth group, I'd gone away to college, and Dave talked about this new young minister. And as soon as I got back from I think it was Christmas vacation, I went to meet him. And he did two things that really shook me up a bit. First of all, he put his feet on Reverend Montgomery's desk, and he took a pipe and he started smoking it. And he said, "How's it hanging, Ken?" And all of a sudden that allowed me to think, hey, I could become a minister too. Before that, it was Reverend Montgomery, and I could never be like him. Dick Lundy he ended up in the Midwest, but he came out and he preached my ordination sermon. And I was so honored to have him do that.
Thank you.
Who else has a question? Yeah, Tom Dean, I saw your hand. And there you go.
Okay,
Tom.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't have a question exactly, Ken, but I want to say a couple of things about your ministry, I guess. When I first came to Arlington Community Church, I just came for a while, and you never pressured me, and the congregation didn't either to join. And that's probably, I mean, there are other reasons, but that was very important to me that, the second Sunday I came, you weren't harping at me to join. You had a very laid back, but sincere approach. And then I'll jump to the post-ministry period. When I was in the hospital and the rehab center and all that time, and also at home recovering a couple of years ago, I think you were my most faithful visitor. And I had lots, I'm not complaining, but if I counted, I think you came the most often and were the most faithful. And I got to know you better, maybe better than I ever had before, because we never had that much time to talk. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Your style as a minister, and your continuing ministering to me, so to speak, after your career.
Thank you.
Monica and David, surely you've had a chance for a question to come bubbling up over these years of knowing Ken. Do you have anything that you want to say right now?
I do. Well, two things came up that were a little bit comments, but Dad, maybe they'll spark more conversation. I mean, one thing is that, as soon as this pandemic hit, the first thing you said was that I'm going to miss being able to go call on people. And I love that. I think I remember you talking when you took your last interim ministry that you still felt like you were happy to still preach and you wanted to keep calling on people. And obviously you were going to keep studying and worship on your own. And then I just thought well, I don't think you're retiring. It sounds like maybe you're not doing the budget meetings, but I think you're kind of doing everything else, which is honestly something that has always inspired me with, both Mom and Dad, with the work that you chose, which really felt like they were lives.
Well, I did interim ministries till I was 75.
Yeah.
And I went down in size of churches. The Laguna Beach Church had a staff and all, but after that, the last one was San Rafael. and it was a smaller, and I could handle that.
Absolutely. And Dad, the other comment was when you took your sabbatical and you went into the monastery. I think that was so brave. I mean, I'm now the age that you were when you did that. And I feel like to be in your 40s and to choose to take 6 months away from your life and family and career, but to really know that you needed that spiritual recovery.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I mean, it's funny. I think I've always wondered, and I sort of think I know, but I feel like it would be wonderful to hear you say how you felt when you returned after taking that time away.
First of all, I was so grateful to the church to give me 6 months off. I knew immediately what I wanted to do. And going back to the monastery, which the founder of that monastery had studied in India under a guru. And we used the mantra Maranatha. And so, and it was so gracious of the congregation to release me. I was really at a midlife crisis because I was convinced that I would be able to be a good pastor and have Jim Lauer as a compliment to us, that we together would be able to serve the church well. But thanks, Peanut.
You're welcome. Well, I really admire that choice, Dad. I understand now how unusual it was and how much trust you put into the church and us as a family, and that you really took care of yourself spiritually. And I think that's incredibly hard to do or even understand it's necessary. Yeah.
Dad, I love the quote you just said about you'd rather see a sermon walking than hear one any day. I've never heard that phrase before, and I love it. I wrote it down and I gave you credit. So, but I feel like
thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
You're the son we'd ever had.
Yes. I feel like you're such an example of that phrase. You really do walk your walk, and when sometimes it gets you into the stickiest situations, and you've always made it out. So I've always felt like you've always walked with God at all times, which has always been so inspirational. And I didn't know if you wanted to share my favorite story of all time about you and Mom when you guys were in Russia and you went for that run, and just talking about walking with God and trusting that everything is going to work out. Would you like to share that?
I would, but it's a wonderful example of Mom and my relationship too. I went for a long run in Russia, and it was a swampy area, and part of the swamp there were fishermen, and they were drinking pure vodka. And I smiled and waved. They looked at me and they recognized that I was there, and that ship I was on was the peace ship. So they decided they'd take me back to the ship.
Hey, Dad, can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Can I just like, so I can contextualize what you're talking about a little bit for everybody. They pulled the ship they were on pulled over in a port in the middle of nowhere in Russia. And Dad said, do I have a couple hours to go for a run? And the captain said, yeah, but we can't wait for you. You got to be back here by the time to go. So he went for the run. And then he just kept running and making left and making a right and making a left. And then before he knew it, he was completely lost.
Yeah.
So he had been running for a couple hours. Every time he stopped, mosquitoes would attack him. So he had to keep running. So by the time he found the fisherman, he had been running for like 2 hours and was completely dehydrated. So go, Dad.
And the boat with Mom, long gone.
Gone. The boat.
So I want to add too that a very nice gentleman who was on the cruise realized what was happening and that Dad was drunk and, you know, and
well, no, we haven't gotten there, Mom.
Haven't gotten there yet.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
What? I like the story. What's
so
up?
we haven't gotten to that part, Mom.
Okay.
But yes, that part's coming. Okay, Dad. So
Well,
you're trying to keep
anyway,
it a ride.
You flagged down the fisherman.
Yeah. Well, they were typical drunks because I've been there, done that too. If you're not going to have a drink with me, forget it, guy. And they stopped the little outboard and were going to turn it around and take me back and let me where I started. And I didn't want that. So I drank the vodka, and of course I was dehydrated and all. And they took me all the way back to the ship. And as I was getting off the ship, Mom was anxious, and so a very delightful elderly gentleman who we'd come to know and like said, Donna, he's returned, but I think he's had a little bit to drink.
All right, and I can add, all right, so that's when I said, that's not possible.
Dad,
And he said, well, I said, well, okay, bring him on board, I guess.
Well, anyway, to finish that story, we won the dance contest that
We
night.
did. Jitterbug contest. Jitterbug. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that was quite an experience. Yeah.
But I feel like, Dad, you've always gone. We have so many stories like that from your life where you just kind of followed your own instincts and trusted God really a lot, and it always got you out of the predicament. So well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Monica and David. I don't know, maybe do we have time for one or two more questions? I know some folks might need to be taken off pretty soon. Does anybody else have a
Nate,
last-
I don't have a question, but yeah, I just wanted to say that it was quite an experience in Russia. And, you know, and when the fella came to the ship and said, your husband, I found your husband, he's drunk. I said, no, it's not possible. And yeah, that was remarkable because I didn't know if we'd ever find Ken. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I've gotten lost on a number of runs before, but nothing more interesting has happened to me after that. Linda Jones, I saw your hand. Yeah.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say I remember that sermon that you told us about that, Ken, so long ago. I just want to say, you know, I joined the church with you. We were there when we got Roger to help you with the colors and Ken was painting the parsonage.
Yes.
You have done so many. You've been such a part of our family. You married our daughter, Kristen, more than 20 years ago. You married our daughter, Courtney. So it's been such a part of our life. But the one part I want to bring up about the church is you brought meditation to the church. And I could still see those fireside room meditation workshops, Ken. They were full, and it was just such a gift. And you introduced us to the Carmelites, and I still see them and have a relationship with the Carmelites. But that was such a special gift to spend those meditation workshops for those of us who had never experienced it. And it was just a really important part of our church life.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I've had my turn already, but I just wanted to give a little testimonial about meditation and Ken. I've told this story before, so I'll make it really short. I was sitting in the hospital with a broken ankle in the first trimester of pregnancy, and I didn't want to take any drugs, and they couldn't operate on me for 3 days. So I was in a lot of pain, and there were nurses and doctors and anesthesiologists running around my room, and in the middle of the room sat Ken, totally calm, totally silent, this island of calm in this chaos. And it got me through that night. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
I wanted to add one more thing. When we did come to the Arlington Community Church, it was Susan and Ron who helped us move and had us for dinner that night. And that was such a lovely welcome, and always felt great about that. So thank you too.
Ron?
I remember moving that heavy piano, Donna. That's the last time we offered to move
Now,
anybody.
how the heck didn't we have a piano mover for that? Oh my goodness.
Ron, weren't you chair of the search committee?
Yes, I was.
Yes.
Along with Sandy Farrell, Chris Ryder, a lot of other
Yeah.
fine folks were participants in.
Mhm.
Good committee.
Well, it's so great to hear these stories. Caro, do you have anything else to add? You only got to ask one question, but do you have any wrap-up
Oh,
words?
just that it's been a big honor, I think, to have Ken here for all of us. And so I really appreciate it, Ken. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Ken,
Can I throw in one comment? I hope the people at ACC realize how special, how unique, and what a gift it is to still have Ken as part of the church family. Because in the vast, vast, vast majority of instances, a former pastor still being able to be a part of a former church in a way that works for them and the church, it's almost an anomaly. But it doesn't surprise me that it works with Ken.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's such a great point. Yeah. And the institutional memory and the way that you're able to kind of bring the past into the present for us, Ken, is a real gift. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'd love to close us with a short prayer. But before that, I'll just say that we're going to do another spiritual journey interview next month. We're hoping to keep this up as a regular monthly thing that we do on Zoom. And we'll have more information about the special guest and what the topic will be going forward. But I've really enjoyed the first two of these. And Ken, thank you so much. And I told Donna before, Donna, you will be on our list before too long. We want to give you your own hour as well. So
I'm not sure about that, Nate.
for sure.
I'll give it some thought.
Okay. Let me just say a quick prayer to close us out today. Oh, great and holy God, we thank you for the way in which you work in each of our lives. And today, God, we come thanking you for the way Reverend Ken Barnes has walked with you and the way in which that walk has taken him to some unexpected places, some humbling places, some vulnerable places, but all places where your presence has shone forth. And we thank you for his presence, his calmness, all the ways that his ministry was a gift and continues to be a gift to the people of Arlington Community Church. We praise you and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Nice
Good
to
to
see
see you,
you. Nice to
Monica.
see you all.
Good to see everybody. Take
Great to
care.
see you, Kurt. Bye, Monica. Bye, David.
See you,
Bye.
Kurt.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, I want to leave. When do we leave?